Hello, in this video I'm going to teach you about acid-base neutralization reactions. Before I do that, I want to really quickly remind you that an acid is a chemical that starts with an H normally, and it tends to make H3O in water. So it's a water molecule with an extra hydrogen. That's what acids do. Bases, they tend to end in OH, and they make OH in water, which is called hydroxide, just an oxygen and a hydrogen. It's like a water molecule with one hydrogen taken away instead of added. So that's the old stuff. Here's the new stuff. When you put an acid and a base together and they react, they create pure water molecules, or H2O. That's because the acid has H3O and the base has OH. The extra hydrogen from the acid just sort of goes over and combines with a hydroxide to form a water molecule. So if you have an extra hydrogen and then one fewer hydrogen than you need, you can just transfer one over and then you have two water molecules. It's great. So when an acid and a base react, they form pure water, totally harmless. So we're now at the definition of a neutralization reaction. A neutralization reaction is defined as the reaction between an acid and a base that creates water and a salt as products. And a salt is just an ionic compound. Basically, the salt is what you get with all the chemicals that aren't hydrogens. This is what I mean. Here's a neutralization reaction. We have hydrochloric acid, HCl, reacting with sodium hydroxide, NaOH, that's a base, and it forms, well, the H and the OH, like I showed you before, they make a water molecule. But then you still have these other chemicals on the left side that didn't react, and those just stick together to make what we call a salt. So the parts of the acid and the base that are not the hydroxide or hydronium parts, they just combine together and they're leftovers, and we call it a salt. So, examining this reaction with a little bit more detail, we have the acid and the base as reactants. You have an H from an acid and an OH from a base. These two things combine to form the H2O, water on the right. Then all the things that aren't H's or OH's, they combine to form an ionic compound, which we just call a salt. It's a catch-all term. It doesn't mean necessarily the stuff you put on your French fries. So, the chlorine and the sodium on the left, they did not react to make the water. They made the salt, the leftover thing. And you can see that more clearly when you just eliminate all the hydrogens and oxygens. So these are some reactions. I'm going to tell you how you can figure out if they're neutralization reactions or not. Let's start with this one. This is actually a neutralization reaction because I have an acid, starts with an H, a base, ends with an OH, it makes water, which I need, and then this leftover thing, but you don't really need to worry about it. As long as you have an acid, a base, and water, it's probably a neutralization reaction. So this is a neutralization reaction. This one, well, let me see. It looks more complicated because there are a lot more little numbers, but this is a base because of the OH. That's an acid because it starts with the H, and then I make water molecules over here. So acid and a base making water, and then this leftover thing is called a salt. That is a neutralization reaction, so this is neutralizing. This Na plus Cl makes NaCl. That is not a neutralization reaction because this is not an acid or a base. That's not an acid or a base, and there's no water anywhere. I need water being formed. So if I don't have any water, not a neutralization reaction. This is not neutralization. This one, well, KOH, that is a base. HBr, that's an acid. And it makes water, and then some leftover thing called a salt that I don't really care about. This is neutralization, yes. This one, well, I start with N2. This is not an acid or a base. H2, maybe you could call this an acid because it starts with an H, but eh. And I don't make any water anywhere. So because there's no water, it's not a neutralization reaction. Nope. That's it. I hope that was helpful.